Howdy, I'm Repton, and this is Repton Does. Here we are, episode 6. What are we going to try to get done? Again, embracing the small from our last episode. I want to get that drone port in place. I think it's going to let us have small scale operations, not fully automated, but where we need them, we can use them. I want to look at small scale nitrogen to test that out. And then things are getting bigger, right? So as we look at some of the next things to come, we know we need to have much higher throughput. If we just want to be able to do the 10 assembly directors per minute, we're talking 5K iron per minute. If we want to do 10 of all 4 items, that's 15K. We need better transportation. So we're going to take a look at some train logistics, maybe play around with trucks. Maybe not in this episode, but we definitely are going to have to revisit that. And then definitely what our big iron plant's going to look like. I haven't done a lot of hard drive hunting. We need to do that for some alternate recipes, especially to address some power needs I think that building these bigger factories are going to require. So let's get to it. We talked about last time. We're ready to brace the small in some spaces. So I need some nitrogen to keep things moving forward. I really not ready to set that factory up. I still have an aluminum factory to build. We're doing small scale there right now. I think drones are going to be key to this new guiding principle with us. I think here is where I'll set up my drone hub. Why? Near water, near sulfur. We'll have to bring some things in to make a small battery factor just to support our drone output. So this is where we're going to work. First, we've got to clear out some unfriendly inhabitants. And this is a good tip. You can actually sneak up on these so you don't have to get smacked around by all the little bees they release. I don't think bees would be this nasty, but good gosh, if you just walk up on these things, they definitely will get some out. They definitely will whack you around. You can crouch right up to them. Even while you hit them, they still won't let anything out. So good tip, if you're having trouble with these, stay far enough away, crouch right up to them, give them a couple of whacks. And there, no problem. After further consideration, that wasn't going to work. The water wasn't deep enough up there. It's far away from some other things we were going to need. And given that we had small scale aluminum already set up that is going to be necessary for battery components and some other things, we decided to come down near our plastic rubber power factory small scale aluminum setup with some drones. And we have this nice feature in the middle of the lake there, so we could put some geyser power. Not that we need it, it's not producing enough, but we'll run our main battery setup off of that, get us a nice round drone port setup. I think this is going to be a good spot, and I like the way it looks, especially how the concrete frames that piece in. So we'll get that built. We are still going to use this location. We need that sulfur for sulfuric acid for our batteries, so we'll get this, again, sort of a small scale setup, running sulfur into our drone port. We'll drop a drone here, and then we'll be able to fly that into our new drone hub, which will ultimately help us get battery capabilities set up and ready to go. With sulfur set up and ready with a drone, we need to finish getting our drone port set up and ready to bring in all of those pieces. So we're going to get capabilities to build our batteries, which means we got to bring over some alumina solution, we've got to bring in some casing, we've got to bring in some sulfur, which I just brought some back to quickly try out. We're going to take advantage of running those pipes underwater to keep things hidden. So we've got our sort of factory set up, not all of the automation yet. We're not bringing in everything that we could automatically, but let's get the sulfuric acid flowing. We'll drop a little sulfur over here, and we should start to see some batteries being produced. There's the sulfuric acid coming in. So we have some extra water, so we're not really producing any extra batteries. So we'll loop that back around and we'll actually feed it back in, right? So we need some water. We have a byproduct of water. We can certainly feed that back into the machine, no problem. So we'll make a quick adjustment to our pipe layout and then feed that extra water back into our refinery. So with water fed back in, we're ready to bring out the batteries to populate into our drone ports. and bring sulfur in an automated way, right? So we're going to fly sulfur into this drone port. We'll feed it into our refinery, so we're making sulfuric acid, which then allows us to build the batteries. We'll bring the output of those batteries out of our blender and feed ultimately all of our drone ports, but for right now, let's just get this first one set up. So yeah, so let's connect our sulfur, just change that lift, bring this in. Now we're ready to feed sulfur in. Once we get that drone flying, then let's bring our batteries out of our blender. I do like the straight line, but that's not going to work, so just slide it back a little bit, set that first belt down, and then we can move it over, feed it in. I think that looks a little bit cleaner. It's down on the ground, but I think that'll be okay. So yeah, so now we've got batteries flowing. With batteries flowing, the next thing will be the aluminum casing to make the battery. Again, we had just brought some down manually, but with our small aluminum setup here, we're in good shape to actually automate this. So we'll add a constructor. Instead of just making ingots, we'll make some casings on site here. Remember, we're making some back in our main factory as part of this aluminum small scale setup, but we'll split some off here. We'll make it and we'll feed it right in to our blender so that we can get those batteries really fully automated at this point. Now, we're not making enough to do any large scale operations, but certainly it is enough for this drone port. We'll have more than enough batteries. We'll even be able to call them into other drone areas as needed, which is nice. So again, like that straight loop with belts to get us a nice clean look, straight lines feeding into. And now this is pretty much fully automated. We have sulfur being produced, we're producing casings, we're bringing it into our machines, we're using drones to move the sulfur around, we're feeding batteries back in. Alright, let's get some drone ports down and get this built. There is one thing you might notice with a round design that will be a problem, but we'll revisit that in a later part of this video. But for now, let's get things done. Alright, drone port built. Let's wrap around and clean up how we're bringing power in instead of these power poles we put around just to use the hover pack. Let's clean it up, make it a little bit cleaner looking. Ultimately, we're going to use the wall outlet and then do that front edge of our drone port to bring power all the way around. So we can come down from our platform here, we'll bring it onto this front edge and just snap it straight down, coming through there, and then we'll bring it over to each one. Just like that. No, let's bring it back a little bit. Yeah, right there, and then we'll snap it up. Once we disconnect that power, we can bring it straight up, and we should be good. So we're gonna whip around these edges, get everybody connected to power, and the drone port will be ready to rock and roll. Okay, with drone port set up, let's get our small scale nitrogen set up. So we need our well pressurizer. Just like that on the middle, and then you'll notice we will not be able to put the extractor down until we power this. So you see, we've got the nodes, it'll snap to it, but it will not actually let you drop it because it doesn't see that the well is being pressurized, so we'll need some power. But before we do that, we've got a critter around here somewhere that's making some noise. Let's go see what's what. Ow! What the... it's those little spider things. Let's see, there he is. Let's see if we can't get him. Oh my gosh, here he comes. Oh, he almost got us. We're gonna have to make a quick getaway. Yep, so hopefully he doesn't jump on our back when we hide over here. Let's get some health. Yeah, there's a quick inhaler. I hear him still around, but I do not see him. He came back over. We've got a different inhabitant who isn't happy that we're here getting nitrogen, so we'll take care of him real quick and then see if that spider is around, or maybe he fell to his death when he jumped off after us off the coral mushroom there. So we'll slide back over here and then let's get this nitrogen set up. Alright, with power provided to our pressurizer, we can get that extractor down. Now we need a platform for our drone port. So we'll lay down a little grid here. And then we're going to have to put a port down. So we'll grab that right here. Oh my gosh, are you kidding me? We do not have enough resources. Well, I guess we're going to head back and grab the missing resources we need. And then we'll come back and put our drone port down. So let's try again. This time we have our drone port, we have the resources we need. I'm gonna get it kind of out on this edge, probably extend it out a little bit because we need some room to actually package up and be able to ship our nitrogen out. So we're gonna move it out to the edge to give us a little space back here. Drop that down, and that gets us in good shape now, I think. Really, we're going to have to do two things. We're going to have to bring canisters in and then ultimately get packaged nitrogen out. So we got our drone down. We'll have to go get some batteries to get set up there. Ultimately, I think we'll need another port here, and then of course we'll have to get ability to bring up the nitrogen, package it, and then get it out. So let's get that taken care of. Aw, crap. You ever have one of those moments where you realize you're just not going to be happy with something? Constantly flying back and forth to my drone port, I realized I was not going to be happy with the way those drone ports had snapped in with my round configuration. So I still want a round look at, but a round configuration, but I'm going to need a different setup because I'm not at all happy with the way the drone ports snapped in on the end. So let's take a quick look at what might make the difference there and how we're going to build it out. It really comes down to some small platforms on the end and then build that round piece. So like I said, the magic here this time is to build a star pattern out that we can then later fill in to get that full round configuration. But now we have these squared up platforms that we can drop a drone port on, and it'll snap right to those edges and be nice and square. Some of you, it may not have bothered. It was really starting to bother me, especially as I came back and forth more and more as I was setting up that small scale nitrogen. In the end, it's going to look nice and round, so we'll just get to filling in some pieces, and then we'll get to our final configuration, which here we are. So you can see we've now got nice clean drone ports, batteries are running underneath, we've got a round configuration still, better centered up on the middle. Looks great, really looks great. So what's next? Yeah, time to look at transportation, and Big Iron really plays together here. So as we were starting to look at what we have to do for these phase 4 items, just to be able to do 10 per minute of the assembly directors, we're going to need 5,000 plus iron per minute. We're not producing anywhere near that. And if we want to go 10 per minute of each of the phase 4 items, we're talking 15,000 per minute. So we can see things are really scaling up as we continue to build more and more for our space elevator. So with that in mind, we definitely need to revisit two things: transportation. Want to look at trucks potentially for some small scale stuff, as well as where we're close together. And we're probably going to need a true train hub. And I think I have some ideas there, probably something near our main factory. So let's hop over there and take a quick look at what we might be able to do and what some challenges might be. So here's a first potential setup for train hub. You can already see some potential problems, right? As I come off my mainline track, these trains are long enough that they might still be blocking other trains wanting to come along. So I have just a couple of trains moving in a loop between these three. Also a space issue, right? These train stations take up a lot of space, so you need a huge room. And I'm thinking incoming on one side, outgoing on the other side. But I just don't think this configuration is going to quite work. And now I did it this way because I didn't have enough room to run them sort of away from the tracks because of the space they need to turn and come in. And I had originally a double track idea, so you get off the main line and have two tracks. But again, we're a bit space constrained, so I think we're going to have to revisit this particular setup with something different that allows for trains to queue up somewhere, so I have room for additional trains and not create congestion on my main line, as well as I think I need more incoming train stations, and then obviously on the other side I have a lot more room for outgoing. Yeah, see what I'm talking about? This guy is blocking transportation going both directions. My main line would now be fouled up while he's waiting to be able to go on that transportation circle. So here we go with a slightly different setup, and let me tell you what I'm thinking. So now I have that dual line as I come off the tracks. I've created a split level, or the idea will be split level. So you'll come off the main line, go down below, can circle around, come back down to this end, and then sort of queue up, right? So we have multiple tracks for trains to get on, and ultimately be underneath to have lots of room for if we have congestion, if we had lots of trains arrive at the station. And then our stations would be up top. So that'll give us a lot more room. We're above some of that terrain, so we can now go sort of north-south with our tracks as opposed to that east-west layout. So here we are looking at all 6 train stations up top. Looks great. All of them are four-car trains, so we have lots of room to bring products in. I think this is going to work out well for our incoming train side. This over here will be our outgoing. We do have space for trains to queue up underneath. If we sort of move down here, we can take a look, see how we come in off, then underneath. Right, so you're coming around, we reorient everybody. If you come in from this direction, you would go down, hit that loop, and then come back around this direction where this train is queued up waiting, and then you would come around to these tracks. Now, I forgot a fundamental rule of trains. They always take the shortest path, so this idea of having many is not really going to work, because they're not going to take those different tracks like I'd want them to. Instead, they're just going to wait for this one. That's going to work out, I think, as well. It'll give us some room for queuing as we bring products in, And we still have room under here for about 8 trains plus the 6 up top, so 14 trains we could deal with as we're processing incoming work. Okay, with trains getting under control, it's time to talk big iron, the next piece to that puzzle. So we're out here at the future site where there are 3 pure nodes. We've got a couple of miners set up and a platform that we think can roughly handle what we need to do. It won't be the full 5,000 here. We're gonna have to have multiple iron sites, or produce less of those features. Now I think I would, given the train network we're trying to set up and the power grid that we ultimately want to get to, I think we could have more than one of these sites, use the trains to bring it in, and then get those products out to the factories that need to do the work. So just looking at some of the numbers, 3,600 is what we could produce here, divided by 30, 16, so we would need roughly 8, 7.5. We'd need 8 of our blueprints of a 16 smelter configuration. So if you remember, we built those stackable blueprint setups, so let's slap those down. I'll include a link to that video as well. So here we are, let's get those blueprints down. Let's see, which way do we want to turn it? I think we kind of want to be on this corner and maybe angled inside. Yeah, and then we'll bring those, snap the next ones in, like so. And we'll just continue building that all out to get our 8 or so completed on this platform so that we can produce our big iron factory. And here we are. We've got all of them snapped into place. Now, we've even got room to expand if we end up bringing more iron here just to do the smelting. And just looking at the numbers again, if we wanted to run all 8 by 16 by 30, that's what we could take care of ingot wise. So we'll be in good shape if we get the Mark III miners and overclock those to full capacity. We'll be able to do that slightly more than 3,600, or right at 3,600. We have a little extra capacity because we have that extra half that we really didn't need from a production capacity perspective. So yeah, this is our big iron factory. Now that we've put all these machines in, and with these buildings in place, let's look at our power situation. So we can see we're in that situation where if we ran all our machines full speed, we would not have enough power. So we definitely need to give some thought to additional power, another power facility probably. Whether or not it needs to also make plastic or rubber, we might want to look at some other numbers and see how that plays out. But first, it's just going to be finding a site, and ultimately that's going to lead to some exploration for some better alternative recipes to get us to a more productive power plant. It's still going to take up a lot of space, so we're going to look for something flat, something near oil, because that's what we're building. We're not ready to build a nuclear power plant for sure. And then at least double our power, maybe even think about triple or more, so that we're ready for some of these other big factories. So let's go exploring, looking for some hard drives to get those alternate recipes. Now, as you guys know, I like to explore from the high ground. It can be some dangerous territory, and some of it's just hard to get over. And now in my previous tips video, I used foundations. I do that a lot in these videos as well. I'll include a link to that video if you want to check it out for some other tips and tricks, especially if you're just getting started. It's a great place to pick those tips up. But there are alternative ways to use the high ground, and I'm going to show this one. And if I bring power along with me, it actually allows me to use my hover pack the whole way. So I can use the towers. I like the tower with the platform. So I started there from our big iron factory, and then I can start heading up the map, looking for that new power plant location, looking for drives. And you can see I can reach way out, run the next one out there, use my zip line, and I'm relatively safe. There are some things that could still hit me along the way, and it gives me a nice view, right? I'm up nice and high, I can see what's around, looking for those crash sites. Like there's a crash site ready for us to get to. I drop it down there. Does two things for me. It's easy to get up and down, obviously. I can get back to the high ground and continue to look around. It also is bringing power with me, so if you get to one of those crash sites that needs power for you to get to the hard drive, you have it, right? You don't need to set up a quick biofuel plant or anything like that. It also keeps me up high as I come in, so when I see there are inhabitants that might not be happy that I'm there, I can take care of those before I have to go down. And again, remember, nice tip here for those pesky little bees: get down away from them, sort of crouch in, and if you stay crouched, they will not see you and let any of those bees loose, nor will they even when you're hitting them. Now if you come up to this, it uncrouches you, so mistake, now they're out and they're after me. Couple of shots, especially if you have the auto targeting, takes care of those, and then we can crouch down and go to handle those in a much better way. So I think that's where we're going to leave it for this episode, as I zip line up and continue to take the high ground. Great way to see some of the map, great way to see and look for those wrecks, and if you're bringing power with you, you can use your hover pack, which lets you get some additional height, even better. Definitely going to need those alternate recipes as we continue to progress the game, so don't lose track of that exploration, get too wound up in building your factories. So that's it for this episode. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring.